Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here, once again based on your newer suggestions. I'm probably going to keep doing this for a good while. Lots of great suggestions this go around, and I'm still revisiting some of the past ones, so I'll be staying on this playlist for at least a little bit longer. This one has to do with yet another Sasquatch-like creature. Those are very popular, it seems like, within my playlist here, so definitely happy to share this one here. But there's an interesting twist associated with how it's described. In fact, other than one characteristic, I don't think you could qualify this as a Sasquatch, but I'll leave that up to your decision here. But this is a creature that is apparently found once again here in the United States, once again in West Virginia as well. In fact, I'm going to be naming some places that those of you that live around there, who knows, you may have a good chance of seeing this creature. But it goes by one interesting name. You're looking at a representation of it now, and it's known as the Grafton Monster. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating but brief information associated with this almost Sasquatch-like creature. So what was this Grafton Monster? And I use the past tense specifically because apparently it was just cited once, and then that's been about it. So who knows, maybe you might have that rare chance of seeing it again. Well, it was a creature that was encountered back in 1964, although the way I was reading other information, there may be a chance that it could have been sighted even a little bit earlier. And so because of it, it kind of created an aura of maybe it's still there, but it just went back into hiding, like it almost like came out from its hiding place at the beginning, somewhere around again 1964 or a few years back, and then because of all the melee that it encountered, it went back into hiding, and maybe it'll come out soon. Here's where things though take an interesting twist with regards to its physical characteristics. So the reason why it's called a Sasquatch-like creature is this: it's definitely tall. It's been described as being 9 feet tall. It's definitely broad and very muscular, like in other words, like other Bigfoots or big feet have been described as. The difference though is this: whereas your average Bigfoot is always known for its trademark shaggy-like hair. I mean, you could see one from a long ways away when it comes to having that very, very unique set of hair. This one, though, is hairless, completely hairless, not a single hair associated with it. And on top of that, it's said to have either A head, a very, very unique head, in other words, or B, no head at all. That's where, again, it takes just such crazy turns. Because on one avenue, it may have a head, but it's been described as having like a grotesque, unique type head. Just something, again, that you would find maybe, let's say, in terms of a monster movie. And then on another side, it's headless. It has no head. It definitely has the shoulder. It definitely has, I guess, part of the neck there. But the witnesses have stated that there's no head tied to it at all. How this thing would move about with no head or be able to live without it, I have no idea. I remember I was talking about a cryptid a good number of years back, one that had no head as well, but it had its face within its stomach. I'll include the link for it below if you haven't had a chance to see. It's one of my earlier videos. At least there was that avenue that cryptid took. Here, though, the witnesses have stated there is no head and there is no face anywhere else. So, again, leave that up to your description as to how this thing could essentially survive. But it also seems to have a grayish, whitish skin tone, and that's pretty much it as far as its closest relationship to a Sasquatch. Other than being very big, very broad-shouldered, and very muscular, everything else is completely different associated with it. And then as far as its encounter, so again, you have to go to the area in West Virginia, and there's an area there called Taylor County. And if you go to that specific location, that's where there was this set of sightings, like all of a sudden they came out of nowhere, where people were seeing this thing. You have to go to a specific section called Riverside Drive, and there's an area as the City Stone Quarry. Again, I have no idea about these locations. Those of you that are more familiar with regards to that state and that county and that city, you might know exactly what I'm talking about. And if so, please put any comments below there. But if you want to try to find this creature, that's at least where it was seen most prominently. And then that's where this monster apparently disappeared as well. But one key thing that'll tell you that it's close by, I was reading one bit of information that states it makes a very unique whistling sound. So maybe this whistling sound is used as a warning, or maybe it's used as just a form of communication to other Grafton monsters. Who knows? You know how you have something like animals communicating with each other from very far distances through their howlings. Here in this case, you have this Grafton monster doing, or who knows, it may also be just a mating call or just a unique thing as far as it creating that type of specific sound. But the sightings occurred here on June 18th, 1964. All of a sudden, teenagers and adults alike stated that they had seen this creature around that Riverside Drive area. And then as they were going about, they all decided to band up together, and they had flashlights, they had crowbars, they also had mallets with them, I guess whatever they had within their cars, right? And as they did so, they combed and searched that Riverside area trying to find this elusive monster. That's where all these witnesses were coming forward all of a sudden, stating that yes, they saw this 9-foot creature. They saw it had a head. They saw it had no head. They heard its whistling sound, and so on. Unfortunately, though, nobody could provide direct, concrete evidence. Like, nobody had a picture. Nobody had an exact location of it. I'm thinking this was more along the lines of that telephone game. You know how when you tell something to someone and then you tell that person tells it to someone else, details change a little bit here and a little bit there. By the time it reaches an endpoint, it's completely different from before, right? Especially in this case, since it's involving younger adults who are probably excited about the prospect of seeing the monster. I think there's also maybe a little bit of embellishment that might have occurred here. How all of a sudden a huge number of sightings occurred out of thin air, that's where things get a little bit suspicious. But yeah, they all banded together on June 18th to try to find this monster. They did it as some hunting parties. As it turns out, a couple of days earlier, that's when this thing was also making its presence known. Who knows, though, who those people were, because they haven't come forward back then and then now with regards to seeing this creature and what happened to it. But there they were, cars almost bumper to bumper alongside that river drive, and then there they were joining that location trying to find this monster. And then there were 20 reports, 20 actual eyewitnesses of people seeing it, and then again describing it. And then if you want to go even further, there were even 30 teenagers that created their own little band to try to find this creature over the next several days. But again, it remained heavily elusive, and then it was gone. Nobody saw it. I guess the excitement kind of died down. It got to the point, I was reading one bit of information that said that the local police didn't even consider it, like in terms of a credible report, like enough to be able to start their own official type investigation and maybe send officers along those lines to try to see what happened, anything like that. No, local law enforcement took no official notice of it, and then that was pretty much it. It looks like they put maybe the smallest amount of effort, obviously based on what the information was being presented, and then that was everything that was done afterward. Interestingly enough, there may be one very unique explanation as to the existence of this Grafton monster. It may be a misinterpretation completely of an inanimate object, and here's what I mean. Apparently there was a nameless individual, a person right there on the road, who was pushing a hand cart, and it was loaded on the brim, very high, in other words, with boxes. And according to what I was reading, this is where it gets interesting. People driving by, maybe because of the optical illusion created by the night and their headlights and the speed associated with their car, in other words, the light just creating briefest of flashes whenever it comes to what people see as they're quickly driving by it. here they were all of a sudden seeing something slowly shafting, moving towards, let's say, left and right, and then bumbling towards. You can imagine that this handcart was just rickety and then moving side to side type stuff. Here you have this handcart with the boxes suddenly being misinterpreted as a giant hairless monster. It would take a little bit of imagination to consider that possibility as well. I mean, these boxes would have to have been placed in an area in a manner that makes it look like shoulders and legs and so on. So I don't know. I don't really buy that explanation 100% either. So it's hard to say, in other words, if so many people suddenly saw this creature on their own, or if it can be blamed on this handcart that was loaded with these boxes. But otherwise, that's at least one plausible closest thing to evidence as to what occurred and why the people saw this specific monster, in other words. But just wanted to present that out there. But it's definitely taken on a life of its own ever since then, 50 plus years later. That location there in West Virginia has absolutely embraced it. I saw stuff representing like I guess festivals. Like there was a banner showcasing that it was the official home of the Grafton Monster, and then I saw even cookie cutters that showcased the Grafton Monster as well. So it's definitely remained popular. And again, there may be that slim chance, who knows, that it may actually come forward sometime soon. But if anybody has any more info, anything else might have missed, then please post those comments below. What about those of you there in Taylor County in West Virginia and you happen to have more info on the local level? Then please post them below. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.